Way back in 2013, I went to the theater and watched a movie that I was really anticipating. It was a zombie film starring Brad Pitt. Now, I did read the book that this movie was based off of, and I was always intrigued about how they were going to turn this concept from this novel into a feature-length film. But somehow, even with all the cluster, off-camera stuff that they went through, somehow they turned out a very entertaining film that Marc Foster did direct and did star a really fun performance from Brad Pitt in this film of World War Z. So today we are going to have a conversation about this film and kind of go back and revisit a film from 10 years ago and see if it really stands up the test of time in this zombie genre. There's been so many films in this zombie genre now that it seems to be oversaturated. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're just dull, and sometimes you're just left wanting a lot more. Now, I remember in 2013, I went to the theater, like I said, and with my wife, and at the time we were dating. So this is one of the very first movies we actually watched together on the big screen, and we were both really excited for it. I thought the trailers looked really good and had a lot of action-packed moments in there. When we got in the theater, I know we're talking about her and kind of reminiscing about this memory, is that we were on the edge of our seats. The adrenaline was racing and our hearts were pounding when we were seeing Brad Pitt go up with his family and try to maneuver and try to get them out of this situation safely, and then go tackle on the zombie apocalypse head on with him. Try to solve the mystery that where did this virus come from that we're turning everybody into these crazed zombies. And gotta say, going back and rewatching this movie for the podcast and for the YouTube here, I gotta say, I was still just on the edge of my seat. There's something about this movie that maybe it's the fond memories that I have going and watching with my future wife at the time, or maybe it's just the fact that there's so many zombie movies out there that when you find one that you're just attached to, you kind of appreciate everything that movie does. And I have to say, World War Z is a fascinating watch. So if you guys have not seen this movie in a long time, I'm going to read the synopsis here on IMDb on the old trusty phone here. Former United Nations employee Jerry Lane traverses the world in a race against time to stop a zombie pandemic that is toppling the world. First things first, the movie really jump starts right away. There's no build-up. You're basically thrust into this world, and it really opens up rather quickly. You see Brad Pitt making breakfast for his family and his two girls and his wife. There's some news articles or news playing in the background that is showing some world events that's happening about some kind of virus and some people getting sick and what have you. And then they're in a car and they're just traveling down in their city, and there's a traffic jam, of course, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and they're running for their lives, being chased by these foaming at the mouth people that it takes about 10 seconds for them to turn after once bitten. Really fascinating stuff. You're just thrown into the world. You have no idea what's going on. I think that's what makes this film so effective. I really enjoyed that. And even watching it back, you still really don't know everything that's going on. It starts slowly unraveling itself and revealing itself. And a little bit of the mysteries is here as well. There's some sub-characters here, of course, that you don't really have a whole lot to do, and like Matthew Fox is in this film from Lost, and I will get into his character in a little bit later, but he's one of the more notable faces, recognizable faces, I should say, that really doesn't have anything to do in the movie, but it's still kind of funny to see him pop up for the one sequence. I think he had some stuff to do in one of the original versions of the film, and we'll talk about that in a second. Along with Brad Pitt, you also see David Morse, Peter Capaldi, and Ruth Negga here as well. So several recognizable faces here, all playing little minor things, and a lot of these characters don't have a whole lot to do. They're asking the same questions that we're asking as viewers, like how the hell did this big crazy world just kind of fall on its head with all these people trying to eat each other now? But there's some really crazy set pieces in the movie that I find still so effective. I really love the scene on the tarmac. Brad Pitt's character Jerry has to fly overseas, and he's put on this tarmac to try to uncover the mystery of what's happening. They find this patient zero over in this one country, and they're going to go there with another doctor who he may know some things and unravel these mysteries together. So they get there, and it's completely dark. You're seeing zombies kind of run out them throughout, and you're on the edge of your seat. And of course, somebody slips here, and the guy who supposed to have all the knowledge shoots himself in the head. Immediately right there, you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? It's a crazy on the edge of your seat sequence that is really effective, and I think the lighting and kind of the sound effects here really play it off, and it's really intense. So it's a great one to watch. One of my favorite sequences after this tarmac sequence, Jerry, Brad Pitt's character, travels to Jerusalem, because in Jerusalem they have like this little safe area, and he's trying to figure out how they are safe, how do they know, and why are they still taking on people. It's one of the most intense sequences, and also reveals something, a little hook in the armor of the zombies here. It's a crazy on the edge of your seat. You're introduced to a really cool soldier is there as well, and trying to see how they get out of Jerusalem on the plane is another fascinating thing. This is where they really took a turn here. I don't think the original ending was supposed to be completely different, but there was some problems, I guess, backstage with the writing or something. This movie went through a lot of drama, I've heard, and I don't know all the details, admittedly, but I know this ending was something they completely added in. Jerry and this other soldier is on this plane, and they get taken down by a zombie, of course. It starts turning everything. There's a big plane crash, and they have to slowly travel to like a CDC type of area where they do a lot of research there. And that whole sequence is another one that I really think is effective. Even though it's not the original ending, I think it still plays really well. It slows down the pace. It feels more of a horror film, not just like a straight... Zombies is technically a horror genre trope, but this sequence feels a little methodical, a little more slowly paced, and you're kind of a little more on the edge of your seat, and it just really works for me. And World War Z has always been something that I can go back and just be entertained. It's a great popcorn flick that I'm really fascinated by, and I just always been thoroughly entertained by it. I did mention Matthew Fox before, and I think Matthew Fox originally was supposed to... He had one little scene, like less than like 50 seconds. It seems like he's just basically this... helicopter trooper that saves them when to get kind of evacuates them off of this one city to get them back on this cargo ship. Jerry and his family, that is. Very small sequence, but apparently his character was supposed to have this bigger story, and it was supposed to have a love triangle with Jerry's wife somehow. I'm glad they didn't do that, because it would have ruined and hurt the movie for me, and it would have been something that I wouldn't care for. Granted, haven't seen that ending because they didn't actually filmed it, and so who knows how effective it would have been, or if it was even good to begin with. So can't really say if I would have not liked the movie any less, but I really love this movie, and this is one that I can just thoroughly rewatch a lot, and it's a really fun film, and I think that's rewatching it. It proves that, yeah, this one for me is one of my favorite American-made zombie movies in the last 10 years, at least. Yeah, I gotta say, World War Z has been one of my favorites. I do like Train to Busan. That's a Korean film that has the same kind of style of zombies. They run, they kind of build themselves up to get onto things, and it's another one that's just as effective. And World War Z, for being an American, produced horror zombie film, I can honestly think in the last maybe 10 years, the only one that I think is just as effective is a movie called Diary of the Dead, which is a George Romero film. There's a couple other good ones like Anna and the Apocalypse, but it doesn't have the budget. It's more like an indie Christmas zombie film. It's very kind of niche-y. Still really fun and effective. Of course, I think before 10, I say 10 years, but there is some other movies like before. 28 Days Later is another one. 28 Weeks Later is another zombie movie that is really effective, and I think I eventually will do those movies for Almost Sideways at YouTube as well, and podcast. But I really like World War Z. I think it's such an effective film that it's just a blast, and I can't really say anything negative about it. So with that said, everybody, that's my quick takes on World War Z. It's just a really blast and a half. So easy 3-star film for me. But what did you guys think about this movie? You guys like it, love it, or not as big a fan as I am? Let me know in the comment section down below. And also make sure you guys claw that subscribe button. We would love and appreciate it. So thank you so much for listening. Until next time, guys, my name is Adam, and I'll talk to you later.